Hey, it's Jeremy from OpticHouse.com. So here I am finishing off the new cover for Morningstar issue 5. As I mentioned in my last video, this one's based on some layouts from my good buddy Jesse Toves, and I'm pretty pleased with the way that this one came out. You know, I debated between posting this video now. Oh, oops, cat just jumped into the video. That was one of our cats, Khaleesi. Both of the cats love to crawl on the drawing table while I'm drawing. Well, actually, no. We have two cats, Kachu and Khaleesi. Kachu likes to paw at me while I'm drawing, but Khaleesi specifically crawls up on my lap, tries to get up on the page, and honestly, even if I'm not drawing, if the light's on my drawing, there she goes again. she just it's a curve. She likes to crawl up on this angled surface, particularly when I've got paper sitting up there, and it's like I'm just waiting for the day for her to shred one of my drawings. I've got to find a way to train her not to climb up there. Anyway, I had debated posting this video because usually when I'm posting the videos, there are things that I drew weeks, if not months ago, and I just sort of document the process as I go along, and then I post the videos in order. But the redrawing of the cover was something that sort of happened in an immediate sense. Like while I was working on working on starting the gray tones and wrapping up the pages, that's when I decided to go back. When I posted the video of my original drawing of the cover, that was the point when I was like, oh, wait, maybe I'm not 100% happy with it. So I figured I might as well just continue on with that and finish off what I've just done recently, which was, last one was me working on the layouts. Here's me tightening up and finishing the drawing. And it's been a while since I've done a piece of artwork where I was working off of someone else's layouts. And it's invigorating because usually when you're looking at your own work, all you see are the flaws, and it's really hard for you to appreciate the things that came out well in it. And when I'm looking at someone else's artwork, usually when you look at other people's artwork, if they're down on themselves and say, "Oh, I don't like this, I don't like that," you're like, "Dude, man, your stuff looks awesome. It's great. What are you bitching about?" Working off of someone else's work, a friend of mine who's an accomplished artist, I can look at it and say, "All right, let me just focus on what he did right and what he did well in terms of the composition, and then just try and add my flavor to it." So this piece, I'm pretty pleased with the way it came out. I went back and sort of changed up some of the character details to make her feel more the way that I draw Gabrielle in my story, made the costume more like hers. It really reminded me, and I know it's a running theme, but it reminded me of how much more I need to work on my horse drawing because, his horses feel a lot more convincing and solid, and they feel a lot more the way horses are anatomically structured. Like even the drawing of the skull, is completely different from the way that I draw it. And I realize that mine is a little bit more loosey-goosey. So it's one of those things for me to pay attention and work on more. But it's nice to sit here and draw off of someone else's polished drawing. And in this piece, it's kind of interesting that I wavered a bit from my typical method because usually I start with working on a strong holding line and then work on the interior details. And I sort of got back into doing a holding line, and now I'm doing the details, but it's interesting that you can see how much detail I put into Gabrielle's face and adding the shading. Usually I don't add any shading at all until I have all of the line work done. So it's almost like I do the line work first. Like I do the holding line first, so you give you a strong silhouette. Then the line work actually delineating the edges of the volumes. And then I go in and I say, all right, here's the light source, and then add all the shadows of everything that's pointing away from the light source. This time I jumped around a little bit more, and I don't know if I was just feeling more inspired or more liberated by having someone else laying the structure down, the fact that I did some thumbnails to work out the lighting beforehand. But I think it's almost because I felt like I needed the shadow and the line art, the shadow along with the line art to really help emphasize the volumes in this piece. When I go back and I color pieces digitally, a lot of times I'm trying to leave it more like open line work, like animation, where I try not to have too many solid blacks and let so that the color can do a lot of the work. But in this one, I know it's going to be a very dark, very moody piece. The main figure is going to have a lot of strong shadows, almost like there's a spotlight on her as she's emerging out of a dark background. So I think that that's the reason for me putting more of these shadows in here, is to try and lock in that feeling. But also trying to make sure that the shadows I'm using aren't just shadows for shadow's sake, but that the lines that are making them are kind of going in the direction that the form is. So I'm always still trying to think in terms of volume. But point being is there's a lot more shadow in here than there have been in the previous colors, because I've done them in a lot more open line work. And you got to give yourself that flexibility when you're making your art to try and experiment. Because if you don't experiment, you're not going to find new ways to express yourself. You don't want to do the same thing over and over until the day you die. That's it for now. Check out my website, optichouse.com. If you enjoy these videos, please share them. Also, sign up for my weekly newsletter to get a free digital download and see what else I'm working on. Go be creative.